And
Good evening, folks. Welcome to Cook for Health with Chef Alexa Joan, brought to you by AARP New York. My name is Randy Hoke, and I'm the Associate State Director for AARP New York in Western and Central New York. I'm so happy to be with you all here for our final class of 2020 with Chef Alexa Joan. If you joined us before, you know that Chef Alexa not only shares some great healthy recipes, but some tips, some tradition, some history, and some great stories from her kitchen right here in Buffalo, New York. And I'm not sure what Chef Alexa has on the menu today, but I am very happy to turn things over to her in just a moment. Before I do, if you have a question, if you have a thought, if you have a comment, if you want to share a story of your own or wisdom of your own, you can drop it in the chat box or you can just jump right in. We're an informal group and we want to keep this casual. So sit back, enjoy, grab a pen if you want to take notes. Know that the recipes will be posted on Chef Alexa Jones' website, and give Chef Alexa Jones a follow on Instagram. I'll make sure that I have that information in the chat for you. And now I will turn things over to our very own Chef Alexa Jones.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I hope you are having a fulfilled week so far and a blessed week so far. Today is Tuesday, and I just found out today that next week is Christmas. Yeah, time has been moving really slow in a way, but it's also been like at hyperspeed as well. So thank you for joining me this evening. I'm excited to be here again. And thank you, AARP New York and Randy for hosting us. Thank you, Keith, for being our tech person. Thank you, Rita, for always, just guiding, supporting, and facilitating. So I really appreciate all of you. And I appreciate every single one of you that is on the cooking class this evening, whether this is your first one, like Randy said, or, you're an old hat at this. Welcome. I'm happy to have you here. And knowing that next week is Christmas, knowing that Christmas is not going to necessarily feel the same, but I know we're all doing so much to make the holidays kind of feel natural and what they typically are, on top of the stress we may or may not be feeling. What I wanted to do today is provide you a couple of simple recipes that can fulfill you or satiate you, but also nourish you, nourish your soul, give you some good energy, give you good pick-me-up. And they don't take that long to do. So that's my goal today. I have an hour. I am making a roasted carrot hummus with some Moroccan-ish spices. I'm making a roast beet dip with a lot of herbs. I've already made a cannellini bean balsamic dip. I am going to serve it on a tray with some roasted vegetables, some fresh vegetables, and some blanched vegetables, just to give you a little bit of an idea of how things can go together and how you can mix up your charcuterie or your veggie tray. Perhaps this season you don't want to do a big spread, and maybe the day before or on New Year's Eve, you just want something that you can nosh on all day or all weekend. This would be something like that. You can add whatever you want to it. You can modify it any way you want. You can prepare it, throw it in the refrigerator, or throw each individual vegetable in its own container, put the dip in a little container and just snack when you want to. But these recipes I feel are really good for, when you're on the go, when you're shopping, when you're stressed, when you're working from home, when you have to make those deadlines before the end of the year. So what I have already done is I have already roasted my Brussels sprouts. Kind of did this in advance just for the time. And I simply washed them. I cut off the end or the hard part. I cut them in half. I made sure they were nice and dry. I put them on my tray with olive oil, about a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons. depending upon how many Brussels sprouts you have, salt, pepper, and granulated garlic. And I made sure all of the bottoms were down so that I could get that nice, beautiful color on the bottom. And I could get the nice, beautiful, rich green color on top. So that was the first thing I did. The next thing I did for our roasted carrot hummus dip was I roasted some carrots, whole carrots, just regular orange carrots, with some coriander, cumin, ginger, garlic, salt, pepper, cumin. And I think I'm gonna put a little cayenne pepper into the hummus. So I did that. I also roasted my beets. So I just, in a metal container, filled a little bit, just a thin layer of water, washed my beets, put them in the water. Then I covered the beets with olive oil, salt, and pepper. I covered it all with tin foil. I put my oven on about 425, 450, depending upon the size of the beet. Some of these are really big. And then I just let it roast away for about an hour, a little over an hour if your beets are really mammoth, which sometimes they are. And that is what I have prepped so far. And once we get going, I'll tell you more about the vegetables that we're going to put on our veggie tray. So I do have asparagus. And this asparagus is beautiful, not necessarily in season, but you know, I wanted to get a green thing going along with some orange and red and tan to kind of get a Christmassy holiday feel. So these are some beautiful, nice, thick asparagus, which are wonderful for dipping. And I simply broke off the end right where it naturally breaks. If they're thinner, they'll be longer. If they're shorter, if they're fatter, they'll be shorter. And then I took my potato peeler and I just peeled the very bottom part of the asparagus. This is going to be a bit woody, more woody if your asparagus is thinner. But just to give it, you know, make sure you have that nice tender bite all the way through. I just like to sometimes do this with my asparagus. And it may take a little extra time, but that's where the love comes in, as well as the mindfulness, to allow you some time to just sit back and relax, you know, reminiscent of the time when, you know, you might have picked peas or shucked corn or done something with an elder in the household right before Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner. So all of my asparagus are washed, snapped, and peeled. So I'm going to add some olive oil. You know my rule, about a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons. This I put about a tablespoon. A little smidgen of pepper and salt. Keeping the asparagus simple because I have a lot of flavors going on between the dips and the other vegetables. So then I'm just going to, right in my pan, make sure everything is nice and covered. Make sure those tips are covered nicely because you don't want those to really burn. And we're not going to cook them until they're really flimsy. We're just going to cook them just enough. So my oven is turned on to 375. And I think I'm going to start it at 10 minutes and then see what happens. See if they'll be done after that. Come on over with me to the stove. So I'm just popping them right into the oven. I'm turning my timer on to 10 minutes. Meanwhile, I have my water boiling. And this is the pan I put my beets in. So you know that there's a whole bunch of beet water right now. And I just covered it with tin foil and let it sit once it came out of the oven just so it could cook a little more if need be. So I have a big pot of water, probably very unnecessary because I'm not going to be making all these vegetables. And then I'm going to add salt. The process of blanching is to barely cook the vegetable, bring out the brightness in the vegetable, and then you want to shock it with ice water in an ice bath so it'll stop cooking. So you prepare your vegetables, you wash them, you trim them, you have your salted boiling water. And you definitely want to salt it. Almost like pasta water. And then I'm gonna dip my vegetables in and then throw them in my ice bath that I already have prepared. It's a metal bowl. I have some cold water in here, and then I added some ice cubes. For the sake of time, I'm just going to let them kind of float. And these are French beans or haricot vert, so they're very thin. So you really don't need to do a long time. And you still want the snap. So maybe about 45 seconds, a minute is really how long you want this to be. The goal of the veggie platter should be bright, crisp, and green. And we don't want anything dull or gray. So that's been about 25 minutes, 25 seconds, not minutes. If you notice, the color is a little more brighter, but they're still a little raw. So I'm gonna give them about another maybe 15 seconds or so. And having vegetables at this time is really good, especially if you are planning a heavy meal. That way, you know, your body gets the vegetables that it needs, even though you're enjoying yourself. All right, so I'm gonna take out my haricot vert. I'm gonna dip it in my ice bath. I'm gonna let it sit for just a couple seconds so the cooking process can stop. You can leave it in there or take it out. I'm gonna take it out only because I have to do more. Get rid of my ice cubes. And then I'm just gonna simply place them on my tray. Next, I'm going to take my sugar snap peas. These are wonderful. These are a really great snack that I love having because I don't have a lot of sugar in my diet or eat a lot of sugar. I look for vegetables and fruit that kind of can replace that sugar. Sugar snap peas are one of them. Grapes are another that I just like to have on hand. That way, when I get that urge to grab something sweet, I'm like, let me first drink a water, take a glass of water, drink a full 8 ounces, because maybe I'm just dehydrated and that's why my body is kind of craving sugar. And if I'm still, you know, wanting something, maybe I'm just hungry. And, you know, many times we'll try and grab something quick, some type of sweet in order to curb our appetite, but that's really not the best thing to do. So instead, just grab some vegetables and see if that helps you. Okay, so I have my snap peas and my ice bath. I have about 6 more minutes on my asparagus. Yeah, just regular kosher salt. Mainly because I didn't want to waste any of my other salt. I didn't want to waste my sea salt. I didn't want to waste my pink Himalayan salt. So I just keep kosher salt on hand. Sometimes, as I mentioned a while ago, I think, that I do cook with kosher salt sometimes, depending upon what it is I'm cooking. If I'm just seasoning to bring out the flavor and I just want to finish it with a little bit of salt, I'll use Himalayan salt or sea salt. But if I'm cooking things like proteins, I will definitely use the kosher salt. Okay, perfect. Sugar snap peas, haricot vert or French green beans. We're gonna head back over to make some dips. All right, so the first one up is my hummus. I know everybody knows how to make hummus, but sometimes we get caught up in keeping it simple, keeping it basic. So let's try and jazz it up a little bit. Let's add some flavor, add some other vegetables to it. Today I'm adding carrots, but you could always add beets, you could add edamame, you could even add broccoli, garlic, caramelized onion, sweet potato. Sky's the limit. They even have like a sweetened dessert hummus now that you just add cocoa to. kind of like avocado mousse. If you add sugar to anything, then, you know, supposedly it'll be good. I haven't tried it yet. So I have rinsed and drained my canned chickpeas or garbanzo beans. And I'm gonna add about, you can add anywhere from a half of a pound to a pound of carrots, roasted carrots. I'm just gonna add about a half a pound, just to give that hint of flavor. If I want to add more, I certainly can.
Chef,
Maybe
there's
I
a
want,
question from the chat here. Somebody asked if you're using kosher salt. Is that you usually do, correct?
yeah, usually when I'm cooking, I will add kosher salt, especially if I'm using proteins. But if I'm being health conscious and being aware, I'll lean more towards the pink Himalayan or the sea salt because of the minerals that are in it and the amino acids that are in it. Kosher salt it's not iodized and it's just salt. It's better than, I mean, kosher salt is not iodized. It's better than table salt in a way. But the best salt is really either pink Himalayan salt. There's also Celtic sea salt, gray sea salt, or regular sea salt. Will also provide you a lot of the nourishing things that you need. Because sometimes our bodies actually need salt. I know, especially with athletes, sometimes, you know, they'll get palpitations or feel dizzy or something like that. And, you know, the doctor will say, well, they need a Gatorade. Well, you know, what I found, what I've read, what I've researched, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a dietitian. But from my experiences and what I've learned is that our bodies can be kind of imbalanced sometimes, and that can affect us sleeping. It can affect us exercising if, you know, we don't have enough water in us, or if we don't have enough minerals and amino acids in us, then we need to correct that. So I just had a towel, but I'm going to add 1 garlic clove into my hummus. Again, this is kind of like what your preference is. Can you hand me the mincer that's right in the drying rack with the black handle? Kind of what your preference is. If you like things really garlicky, add more garlic. If you don't like any garlic at all, don't use any garlic, or try and use granulated garlic. So I'm going to add a little bit of lemon zest, because that lemon zest and the lemon juice that I'm going to use are going to bring out that flavor in the coriander and the cumin. So there's definitely some lemon going on in both of these dips. I'm going to add some tahini. Tahini is simply sesame seed paste. Honestly, they just take sesame seeds and grind them. But it's a flavor that is very distinctive in hummus. It can also be sweetened as a dessert. And the oil that you see me putting in there, that's a natural oil from the tahini. So I am going to add about a half of a lemon for the juice. And then I'm going to repeat some of those flavors that I mentioned to you. So I have some cumin, about a teaspoon, because I already added some in on my carrots generously, I'm sure. But sometimes when it's cooked, it, you know, doesn't come out as much. A dash of cayenne pepper, or you can use sriracha. Ooh, my asparagus. You want to check my asparagus for me? Sous chef. Some ginger. And just a touch of allspice. Not too much. You could also add clove, but sometimes I think that clove is just a little too much. That's perfect. So this is the asparagus, and it's perfect. It's not overdone. It's not underdone. It's bright. It's going to have a crunch. You're going to taste a little bit of that, that raw asparagus flavor, but not too much. So it's perfect. Can you turn off the oven for me? Thank you. Okay, so I have in my beans, my carrots, all of my spices. I'm gonna use a touch of salt. I have my garlic in there. And I'm gonna start processing. I'm gonna put in a dash of pepper. And what I have ready on the side is some of my olive oil. And this is extra virgin olive oil. And I'm gonna either use all extra virgin olive oil or a mix of extra virgin and regular olive oil. This is not being cooked, so I don't have to worry about wasting my olive oil or anything breaking down unnecessarily. It's gonna be stored in the refrigerator, so it's almost like a salad dressing, which is why I'm gonna use the extra virgin olive oil.
Can you recommend a substitute for salt, Chef?
For this particular recipe, you can always add, again, you can either add soy sauce, even a little bit of fish sauce would be good, or vegan fish sauce, or a little bit of miso would be lovely in this. Or just, you could always try and forego the sodium 100% and maybe just finish it with a little bit of pink salt. You'll notice that the flavors might be a little muted because the purpose of salt is to really highlight or enhance the spices and the herbs and the flavors that you use. So yes, you can definitely bypass the salt, but I would say maybe just add a pinch, add a little bit, just to give it, just to let those herbs work together. Good salt. Good salt. That's the difference. Good salt. All right, turn it on. See if we can get all this processed up. So with hummus, you're gonna mix it and it's gonna act like it's not going anywhere. But as soon as you start adding in the oil, the lubrication, it's gonna start moving. Now, if you don't want to use oil, if you want to bypass the oil in this, I would suggest you could use the liquid from the garbanzo beans, or you can use a broth. The only thing I would hesitate on that is because you would want to make sure that it's heated up when you eat it, because it is still chicken broth that technically you're not supposed to be eating cold. You can add more. I need more lemon in this and some more spices. You could add, I gotta think on that. But water, you could always add water. That is definitely one that you can add to this if you don't want to add the oil. And the carrots have a natural sweetness to them. So that's really going to be a beautiful thing. All right, here we go again. There we go. All right, beautiful. So we taste test. Very good. This one doesn't have, it's not an overpowering Moroccan spice. So if you want more, you can certainly add it. You have a little bit of kick from the cayenne pepper. So I'm going to add this to a little bowl. This is going to be part of our plate. And again, you can make this as smooth or as chunky as you like. All right, that's our roasted carrot dip. Now, we have our roasted beet dip. This is going to be a beautiful color. And this has a little bit of protein in it because I'm adding in some walnuts that are going to give it texture as well as protein. So I have my gloves handy because I don't want to stain my hands. I know beets are, you could also, as I mentioned before, you can use beets for the hummus with a little bit of lemon as well. And that will really give a nice flavor to your hummus. So I'm just gonna peel them because they're roasted. They come apart really nicely, really easily, because I've let them sit and I've let that extra heat kind of penetrate the skin. So you can end up with a beautiful beet. This is something you can do for your salads on a weekly basis. Just roast some beets, cube them up, keep them in a container, especially if you like beets. You can make an apple beet salad out of this, which would be really nice. Just add a little bit of apple cider vinegar, some olive oil, some seasonings, fresh apple, roasted beets, perfect combination because you get the nice earthy and the sweet to go along with it. The other thing that you can do with this is add it to pizzas, or, if you're really feeling adventurous, you can make some pasta with it. So I'm just going to make these into nice big cubes. I'm going to pop them in the food processor. Take off my gloves so I can work. I'm going to add in a 1/4 cup of walnuts. And my garlic. And the beets actually contain a nice amount of liquid. So you'll find, hopefully, that this recipe won't need as much liquid, but you may want to use a little water to thin it out. That's also what you could use. You use water if you want to thin out your carrot hummus as well. So I'm going to start my processor because I want the beets and the walnuts to combine and work their ways down. Okay, so next I'm gonna go for my herbs. Remember, we bought this big old clamshell of basil, so we're gonna get our use out of this basil. So this actually takes quite a bit of herbs because it's a very herby dressing. You need something to counteract or counterbalance the earthiness of the beets. And I am going to add in a little sweetness, even though beets are naturally sweet, in my opinion. Sometimes people think beets are not sweet, but hopefully this is something that will help you maybe like beets. Another thing that you could do with the beets after you roast them and peel them and slice them up, you can actually brine them or quick pickle them. So just make a solution with some vinegar, some water, some sugar, and some salt, maybe some aromatics, some cinnamon or clove, and some onions, and put it in a jar along with the beets and let it sit in your fridge overnight or as long as you want. The flavor will intensify as you let it sit. And you'll have some wonderful, wonderful pickled beets to add to your salads. All right, so I have my beets in there. And I also have some parsley. Parsley, some people think parsley doesn't have a flavor, but it really does. And it has a lot of great healing properties to it as well. If you find yourself having a bit of a stomach upset, or if you just, sometimes just feeling a little low energy, add some parsley to some boiling water and make yourself a little tea. You can do the same thing with like cilantro. I know some people don't like cilantro because of the metallic or soapy flavor that they get when they eat it. So I'm just kind of picking around, getting the leaves. Yes, I do sometimes use some of the thinner stems on the parsley because I feel that it has a lot of the flavor, more so sometimes than the leaves. All right, so now I'm gonna mix this up. Oh, I do need to add lemon juice. And a touch of maple syrup and touch of salt and pepper. And I'm gonna use a whole lemon again, but I may have to use another half. Maybe about a teaspoon and a half of maple syrup. Salt. And when you're adding salt, think about how many servings you have that you're adding to something. So if this is 4 to 6 servings, then you want, not too much, but you want enough so that you can get that, you can have that salt enhance the flavors that you're looking for. And if you're concerned about who you're cooking for in terms of adding the salt, always err on the side of less and then let people finish the salt off on their plate on their own. But you do need salt for cooking. It's cooking. Just like sometimes you need a little bit of sugar, even though I don't eat sugar on a regular basis, I know I need a little bit of sugar to enhance the flavor of what I'm cooking. So when you get in the premise of sugar and salt only enhance what's already there, then you find yourself starting to reduce it in your cooking. And pulsing on. Okay. Definitely holiday colors. All right, so I'm gonna drizzle in a little bit of olive oil. I don't know if you can see this, but just to get the herbs broken down a little more and to smooth it out a little bit. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil. I could also use water. When you cook with fresh herbs, they're so flavorful and they kind of don't make you miss the salt. And if you are using or watching the amount of salt you're adding to your dish, if you pair it with citrus or vinegar, that will intensify the salt flavor. So sometimes if you're cooking something, you added in salt and then you finish it with lemon juice or something like that, you say, oh my gosh, this is really salty. It's because you added that extra lemon juice. So you probably needed to reduce your salt from the beginning. Okay, I'm gonna get my little dish. I'll plate this up. Now, this is a fun part that I like. And when my boys were younger, this is what we would do sometimes for them. They would always ask for a picnic, which we didn't realize that's what we were doing. But they would ask for a picnic because they like to have little things to eat. So if you're home with kids and, you know, because they're home, you're home, they're doing work, and you need to be doing work, you need to be able to give them vegetables because they probably had some pizza or some chicken fingers like my kids. It's like, did you get your vegetables today? Just have them make themselves a little plate made up of some dips and some vegetables and some crackers. And, you know, they'll be able to have fun. They can nosh on it while they're in school or on their break or while they are working on just watching TV. They can just enjoy some vegetables. And if they're sitting in front of the TV, I think that would be the one time I would allow my kids to eat while they were in the front of the TV because they mindlessly will keep putting things in their mouth. That's another way to trick them into eating some vegetables. Not trick them, but you know what I mean. So I like to use what I have at hand when I'm making a vegetable platter. Hopefully everything looks nice and clean for you all. And in order to do that, I could use a plate, but if I'm making something for a lot of people, I'm going to err on the side of, you know, a nice big tray like this. Or if I had a platter, I could use a platter. If you have a wooden board, you can always use a wooden board. But what I'm going to do is we start to arrange and have fun and see what we can add. I use any small trays that I have or containers. I have paper cups just to fill my platter. Oh, I need this again. And I have today, let's see what we have on our spread. I think I have almost everything. I just have to get the Brussels sprouts and the asparagus. And this is almost like the other thing that I like doing. I'll make bento boxes with my husband and just have fun little things that we can just snack on while we're working. I need more space. All right, so I'm gonna start with my mini cucumbers. These are organic. Organic cucumbers, you know, definitely might be better. These are seeded cucumbers, organic cucumbers, not seedless. These are seeded. Seeds are better. When you are cooking or when you're eating, you want to eat for life, and something that has seeds in it is going to reproduce, right? So if it reproduces, that means it has life and energy. So when you hear some people say, well, I don't eat seedless things, that might be why. So I just have about 3 of these, and I'm cutting them into spears to kind of mimic the size of my asparagus and my celery sticks. Okay, so with all of my vegetables here, I have asparagus, cucumber, Brussels sprouts, very green, haricot vert, sugar snap peas. I have celery, 3 dips. I have some pistachios to give us a little crunch along with some crackers. I have cherries for a bit of sweetness, and I have olives, Casa La Verna olives for a little bit of brininess. And you can't have a veggie or fruit tray without chocolate, in my opinion. So I simply just kind of arrange at this point, and I make it look pretty. Remember, I kind of told you I purposely use these colors to bring about some holiday-ish flair or feel. And I purposely wanted to mix, let's see, I purposely wanted to mix my fresh and roasted vegetables. This is something anybody would do at home. I mean, I would hope you would do it because it's awesome. It's simple. And like I said before, it's already prepared. So that way you don't have to do that much. And then you can have fun with it. This is where your creative side can kind of hang out. And then I have my asparagus. And I'm gonna put my roasted Brussels sprouts on this side. Could have also used my green beans. And let's see, because I have bread over here, I think I'm gonna put some cherries over here. And I'm gonna keep my pistachios by the beets because they kind of complement each other sometimes. And I have my green olives here in the center. That's, I'll put it right there. And then I'm gonna add my simple green beans here. Oh, I forgot something. Oh, Alexa. I'm gonna add my green beans here. A couple of my snap peas here. And then sea salt, extra dark chocolate. Kind of like wine. Sometimes you need a little bit of chocolate. Sometimes you need a little bit of salt. Sometimes you need a little wine. You don't want to use all the pieces. There are about 2.5 servings in this bar. So you don't have to have a lot. Just have a little treat to go along with everything else, all the goodness that you're putting on your plate. And then I have 2 types of crackers. They're both gluten-free or paleo. This is Top Seeds, which is a local purveyor or a local baker. And they're seeded crackers. So obviously, if you have something where you cannot eat seeds, I would stray away from them. But, you know, I would definitely try them out. They're very flavorful. They're very good. And I'm actually very happy now that they have a paleo version because she used to use cornstarch. And for some reason, I can't have corn. So I was never really able to enjoy them as much as I wanted to. And to this plate, what you could also add if you wanted to is some pepperoni if you are eating meat, or you could add some cheese if you are eating cheese. But remember, if you have any type of inflammation or sinuses or anything like that, you don't want to be eating any cheese. And you can really have fun. This way you're able to nosh and enjoy. You could add any dip that you wanted to. You could even have, what I've done in the past is marinated some mozzarella and had that on my plate, on my charcuterie tray. And this is my cannellini bean dip. So I simply took some cannellini beans and about a tablespoon of balsamic vinegar and some olive oil. No salt. I added a touch of maple syrup, not a lot because balsamic vinegar already has a sweetness to it. And I just mixed it up in the food processor. So here you have your color because you have that nice, vibrant, beautiful green. You have vegetables that you typically would not put on a vegetable tray. Brussels sprouts and asparagus. I mean, hopefully you all would, but hopefully now you all will. And your dips, and you have texture. So you have crunchy, you have soft, you have salty, you have sweet. And it's just a wonderful combination. It's something like, again, you can come and go while you're washing dishes, while you're preparing your holiday meal, or while you're on those mini Zoom calls that we happen to be on during these holiday seasons. You can just enjoy this with a nice glass of wine or a nice glass of water or a cup of tea. And it's, it's a perfect plate.
I think because of the holiday, it would be very nice to just sprinkle some like grape tomatoes on there, just to add a little red to the color.
Yeah,
but It looks beautiful. I'm ready to stop by right now.
Well, you could. You're on your way anyway. I have a lot. I'll be eating on this, I think, all week because, if you notice, I didn't use a lot of vegetables, but I used a variety of vegetables. So that's how you can not be bored with broccoli or cauliflower. This way you're like, oh my gosh, I got like 5 or 6 vegetables and I have, 3 dips. You can make any combination that you want to.
So let's talk about how do you store that during the week? You just take each vegetable and put them in its own container. Talk to us about that.
It depends. So what I would do is if I were to combine my vegetables simply for space, I would keep all of the fresh vegetables together. You could even put them in plastic bags, but I don't know if people use little plastic bags anymore. Sometimes it's a waste. I would put all my fresh vegetables together, and if I had a lot more room, I could, with maybe a layer of wax paper, add my blanched vegetables to that, and then package my roasted vegetables independently. That's just my preference. Could you store all this together? Absolutely. Could you take each individual item and store it separately? Absolutely. So think about the containers that you have. Think about the moisture that is on the vegetables. So again, I mentioned the blanched with the fresh or the raw. I would actually put my blanched vegetables on the bottom because they've been cooked with water and they may still contain some moisture. And I would put my fresh vegetables on top with wax paper in between. As far as the dips, you can simply just cover them with some saran wrap or with a plastic top and put in your refrigerator. If you find that, it seems to like dry out a little bit, almost like the hummus, the carrot hummus looks a little dry right now, only because the air is hitting it. You can either just glaze it with some olive oil or just hand mix some olive oil right into it. Yeah, and then everything else you can either put into its original container or just cover it with saran wrap. You can even just cover the whole thing if you wanted to. So there are a lot of storage options when it comes to this. The good thing about just keeping it all together is that you can pull it out whenever you want to. I would recommend bringing it to room temperature because the vegetables taste better at room temperature rather than right out of the refrigerator. Just that coldness just changes the flavor of vegetables, which is why when we're in the kitchen and we're preparing something cold, but we start with it warm or we have to cook it first, we always over season it if we know we're going to serve it cold, because cold foods tend to, dull out their flavor. Heat brings out flavor and smell and scent. So you have to always add more if you're planning on serving something cold.
So what's cool about this is that, as you said, you can put everything together just like you did the day before you expect company, cover it all over, stick it in the refrigerator, and then a half hour before your company comes, take it out?
I would say about a half an hour, just to let it just, chill out, relax a little bit. And then you don't have to call Wegmans. This is everything that you can do on your own. And if you go to the produce and you don't buy the packaged vegetables, you only buy, by the pound or by the weight, you can really only buy what you want. If you know you're going to have a handful of Brussels sprouts, just put a handful of Brussels sprouts in the bag, weigh it, and go. The same with the celery and the cucumber and the beans.
Yeah, I made Brussels sprouts just the way you said yesterday.
But you like Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, I do. I do love Brussels sprouts. But I saw the tip about turning them over, on the cut side on the recipe that I looked at. I finally read that little tip, and I did it, and it made the veggie come out really nice.
completely different. I have so many people who don't like vegetables or don't like specifically Brussels sprouts. They're transformed when they eat them roasted like this, just nice and caramelized, because it just brings out a different flavor and it brings out the sweetness in the vegetable, which is really awesome. You could also add carrots to this if you wanted to roast some carrots or do some fresh carrots. I know we have carrot hummus, but you could always add those carrot chips for, I know Rita, you mentioned color. You could always add that. Fennel would be great. I was looking for endive, but they didn't have it. I think that's out of season 2. But the endive would have given you a nice bitter flavor. Remember, we talked about bitter last time. And another good thing that you could add to this is actually radicchio. Those bitter red leaves, which are sometimes for some people too bitter. But remember, bitter is good. We want to add bitter foods to our diets. So you could add those leaves to your tray and almost create like a taco, something fun for the kids. If you thought that maybe they didn't like the radicchio, you could use romaine, just simple romaine leaves, and just kind of layer them on. And then the kids could spread the dip right in the romaine leaf, pile on some veggies, and eat it just like a taco.
When you said that, I was thinking about, just eating, what are the little red things that you put in salad? They're round. They're a root vegetable.
Radishes?
Radishes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, those would be great.
And they would match with the beet. So that would be another pretty color.
You would keep that holiday theme going. My family doesn't like radishes as much.
I like
they're
them.
Nice and peppery.
Yeah, exactly. So sorry, my dear Randy, I didn't mean to take over your role on the show.
Hey, Rita, you are always welcome to do that. We can open it up. Does anybody else have anything that they want to share or ask, Chef?
I just want to say this has been a wonderful series. Thanks to AARP for their support, and this has just been wonderful to be in your kitchen, Chef. And thank you for being such a wonderful host, and also to your cameraman. He's been wonderful. Maybe he'll give us a little cameo of himself, because everybody doesn't know who the cameraman is. And,
yeah.
Come on, Idris. Come on,
the last show.
It's the last show.
This is my this is my
exhausted.
He is not shy.
This is my partner in crime, who, even though we both run around like crazy, he's always there to support me. He's the other half of Eat Off Art. It's our social media platform, our creative design agency. And we kind of just share of ourselves, share of our talents, and encourage people to change the narrative to a starving artist into a thriving artist. Thus the name Eat Off Art.
Yep. And see, the benefits of getting on that side of the camera are the snacks.
So sometimes, yes, Rita, sometimes.
I don't always cook.
Thanks so much, Idris.
Thank you. Thank you.
So it has really been my pleasure to work with you all, Rita, Randy, and Keith. I thank you for this opportunity. I hope this is a recipe that you all will enjoy. It'll inspire some creativity and inspire great ways that you can enjoy vegetables, make vegetables the star of your plate. And if you really need some protein, you can always add some on the side. Just a small corner.
Chef Alexa, thank you so very much. These 6 classes have been wonderful. And during this time with you, your recipes have been wonderful. Your food has looked delicious, but what really stood out to me is you present an attitude in the kitchen that I've been able to incorporate into my time in the kitchen. So thank you. And I would even say that my family probably thanks you too, because these last few weeks, I've been able to turn it up a notch. Folks that have joined us, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. AARP is so happy to bring this programming to you, and we're going to do a lot more like this in 2021 now that we have our virtual feet under ourselves. So Keith, thank you for all your work on this show. Rita, thank you for all the admin help and making this happen. Chef Edries, thank you so much. Happy holidays.
Happy
Thank
holidays.
you. Happy holidays. Be
Happy
well. Be
holidays
safe.
and Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thank you for
Holidays.
joining
Happy
us. Hi, Elise.
holidays.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Geraldine.
Louise. Jay,
It's so nice
thank
to
you
hear
so
your
much.
voices. That's so nice.
Thank
I know
you,
Chef
Jay.
appreciates that. All right. All the
I
best
love
to
it.
everyone.
All the best. Peace and love.
Thank you.
See you, Keith.